Peacemaker is such an interesting show. Every time I'm introduced to a new character, it breaks me, and it breaks me in the best way possible. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about Peacemaker, Season 2, Episode 2, A Man is Only as Good as His Bird. And in this case, I'd have to agree with that title. Of course, with a title like that, I figured that Eagley was going to be a star character in this episode. But before I get into what happened in the episode and talking about my thoughts on it, I just want to give a free spoiler warning to you all. Spoiler warning in effect. We are going to be talking about what happens in the episode. So, I hope you've watched it. And if you haven't, you're SOL. I think one of the things that I just really appreciate about Peacemaker is how it is so character focused. Each character is so interesting and so intriguing, and what I'm really here for is to see where these characters go, to see what journey we get to go on alongside them. I think the best part about Peacemaker as well is the cast, but also the cast as an ensemble. With this episode, we got to see our 11th Street kids all reunited on a little rooftop party, which we saw in the trailers, and I was happy to see here and get an experience of what's going on with it. The fact that Adrian is just in his tighty whities at the end, while people are dousing him with beer, was a whole crazy adventure. And just the fact that we cut to that right after we have this really serious and I think really integral conversation between Peacemaker and Harcourt was just fabulous. As I've said before, I think Harcourt is actually the character I'm most interested in this season. Although, I know everyone loves Vigilante and I love Vigilante too, but I just think everything we're seeing with Harcourt is so fascinating. And I think Jen does a really good job of playing the character and bringing a lot of depth to this character who's clearly going through it. I mean, as we saw in the first episode, she has lost any opportunity at returning to her job, getting to actually do what she's been doing her whole life, which is be in the field, be working as an operative, and just being a badass and just kicking all the bootay. So to see her fall this low, the scene where she lashes out at the woman in the convenience store, in the pharmacy, she's just there looking at hair care. I also loved the fact that we linked Adebayo looking at going to get her her hair care from her home, and her sad interaction with Kia, who is apparently now her ex, according to Kia. That whole sad, going to get the hair care to just, I noticed that Harcourt was also in the hair aisle. I just loved that quick little exchange. But the scene with Harcourt in the hair aisle, oh my goodness. The woman coming up to her and saying, I see that you're really beaten up here and maybe you're going through something, and I just want you to know about, the cycle of being trapped in this and how it's not your fault. And it's both hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time. Hilarious and heartbreaking, by the way. I think if I had to describe Peacemaker to someone who had just no context for what this show is, that's really the vibe, isn't it? The fact that Harcourt is being told all this stuff and she just rejects it so vehemently and says, not everything is a mirror. I'm not your mirror. I have my own stuff going on. But at the same time, what is going on with her? She is trapped in her own cycle of mistreating her own self. And Chris, when he has that conversation with her on the rooftop, he sees right through it, man. And that's the thing that I think really gets to her. I just feel like it's so beautifully played, and I can't wait to see where this character goes and if she comes out of it the other side. I really hope she does. I think the best part about Peacemaker is all of the characters are so likable, even when they're not. Even when Vigilante gets on your nerves, you still like him. Even the new character that we're introduced to in this episode, Langston Fury, who is played by Tim Meadows, who is brilliant, by the way. I went and I watched the podcast after I watched this episode, the Peacemaker podcast, and something that I thought was really interesting was James Gunn talked about how this was such a hard role for him to cast. It might have been the hardest role, he was saying, that he's ever cast. He looked at so so many actors, and none of them were what he really envisioned for the character. And so in the end, he kind of ran out of time, and he just said, well, he was friends with Tim Meadows. He knew of him, and he said, I feel like maybe he could do it. And so Tim Meadows' first day on set, I believe, is this scene that he has with Economos, Steve Aggie's character. And that whole scene is so, I mean, he's just such a bizarre and uncomfortable character. I felt all of the discomfort that Economos was feeling, and yet at the same time, he's so hilarious with his bird blindness, his one weakness, that you just love it. I've seen some people say that the one thing with, you know, Peacemaker and with this season is that some of the jokes feel kind of random and like we're just like making jokes to make jokes. I feel like I want to call this right now. I don't think anything in Peacemaker is just a joke for the sake of a joke. Everything is intentional. So the fact that we have Adrian in episode 1 talking about how much he knows about owls, the fact that in episode 2 we have the bird blindness, it's clear that I think we've already seen the bird blindness come up in episode 2, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think all of this is actually going to really be coming back around by the end of the season in a way that feels even more impactful with both of those bird-related jokes, I guess. I really think Adrian knows more about owls than we're being led to believe. We're making him look a little silly so that later he's gonna wow us. However, with Langston, we see the payoff immediately of the bird blindness because, of course, he and his team are infiltrating Peacemaker's house to find this dimensional anomaly, which, you know, we know is his pocket dimension that takes you to all these doors that go to other worlds. As soon as he was like, I'm getting a team together and we're gonna go in after everyone's gone, I was like, yeah, they're about to get messed up, because I know how great Eagley is. A man is only as good as his bird, and Eagley is one of the best birds out there. I said it, and Eagley proved it in this episode. And I love that Eagley got this epic slow motion walk. Also, the music in this episode was straight fire. This episode, for me, was even better than episode 1. Also, shout outs to Greg Matola, who directed this episode. I just thought it was so well done. It really blew me away. I can't wait to see where the show continues to take us. And I just love the depth that we get with Peacemaker. I mean, I think one of the most heartbreaking scenes for me, even though we had that really great one between Chris and Harcourt, is when Adebayo goes back to her place and, you know, sees her dogs and then runs into Kia. And then when she goes to leave, she says, you know, I love you. And Kia just doesn't say it back. Oh, it's so sad. I really want to know more about what happened with them, because I feel like they were in such a good place at the end of season 1, and I think we've only really gotten the tip of the iceberg in that conversation that they have, where it seems to be that because Adebayo wants to pursue, you know, this career and do something that really is more in line with kind of, you know, her mom's work, with Amanda Waller's work, even though it's not with Argus, it's on her own terms, so it is different, is the thing that has broken them up. And I really hope they can make it work and come back together. I just feel like we did so much work with their relationship in the last season. So it's sad to lose it here. But hey, we need people to have ups and downs or we have no story. Is that not true? It's true. Also, before I go, we just have to talk about the gleefulness of Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase, as Vigilante, helping Chris dispose of the body that is the alternate version of himself that he took out at the end of episode 1. That whole sequence, I was dying of laughter. That whole sequence slayed me. I was laughing so hard. Oh my goodness. Goodness, this cast is good. They make me laugh. They make me cry. Also, everyone plays intoxicated really well in this episode, I have to say. I think John Cena actually was my favorite at the intoxication. He did this thing where when he got home as Chris, he sits down on his bed and he just like kind of falls asleep for a second. And I was like, man, I have definitely been in that position. That is really what it feels like sometimes when you're so inebriated that you just can't help but fall asleep and you just immediately wake up and realize like, whoa, I'm still like sitting up, still fully dressed. That's how you know you've had a lot of Bud Lights, I guess. Watching them drink Bud Lights, and I'm like, I feel like you'd probably feel fine, but maybe that's just my Canadian sensibility speaking. Although that being said, I'm not someone that really drinks anymore, so maybe I wouldn't be fine in that scenario. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 2. I feel like for this episode, this one, I'm going to be real. I think this one was actually a 5 out of 5 for me. So we went from 3 to 5. We're doing good. And I'm hoping we're just going to cruise this entire time. Every episode's just going to be just as good as this one. Because this one was perfect. I really have no notes. I loved every element of it. I just thought it was so fun. And a lot of great character work here. That's all I have for this one. Let me know your thoughts on the second episode down in the comments below. I'm also going to try to get a reaction up for you guys as well, so keep an eye out for that, and hopefully we can do that for my members only. And thank you to those of you that are members. About a third of the money that I make on YouTube right now actually comes from my members, so thank you to those of you that support the channel that way. It really does help me and help the channel, so I really appreciate it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know your thoughts, and until then, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you missed me talking about episode 1, you can check it out here. Also, should I still talk about season 1? Let me know in the comments, because I feel like we should still do that. And the Suicide Squad. I've seen people hyping it. We need to discuss. One of my favorite superhero films, just gonna say. Starro, amazing.